Yep. So this is a spacing concept that I started running a long time ago. And when I first grabbed it way back, it was tight to the tackle, sloppy, and I, just tried to make it better, move it away from the box. That's what we're trying to do is kind of create space, change space, and make people have to deploy differently than a normal conventional set. And so for us on this one, our outside receiver just runs a 6 to 7 yard hook route. And the number two runs a 6 to 7 yard OTT over the tackle. And then the number three receiver hesitates, lets them clear, and then he's just got a flat. And we read this outside in. So he would take the flat if that comes open right now. Then he moves to the second receiver.
So
So
why do you call
pretty
it, why do you
simple.
call it OTT instead of OTB over the ball?
Well, because we don't want we don't want him to run all the way over the ball. He's just going to run to the tackle. Just because that's two gaps, two guys farther in. So we just want him setting up quicker since he's coming from space. If we ran this from a more condensed set, then he would OTB it.
Okay.
So we just give him a OTT aiming point roughly. And then backside, we have a 7 route, just a bang post, and then we check release our back on the swing. So just an easy spacing route. Pretty simple, borderline quick game. We consider this a drop back, especially with this 3-step variable 3 drop. In our pass pro, we're set and we're not aggressive on it, but it's pretty quick.
And what's the width of the point man off the hash? 2 yards outside the hash?
Yeah, we kind of play around with it. We let our guys, kind of we try, hopefully we rep things enough where our guys are able to get a feel for it and change it a little bit. Obviously, like a lot of things, you got to rep them, get your guys comfortable with it. But we kind of let them play around with it. We're not, definitive on some of these things. In practice, we'll tell them, hey, move out on this, and they just try to get comfortable with where they are, and they got to understand why they got to be farther out on some things. And you'll see a couple of the concepts, the guys are a little closer, the guys are a little more spread out, and it's just kind of according to what we want them to do.
Okay.
And then I don't know how much you want to look at the tight shot.
No, no, we can just go wide. I don't want protection.
Okay, cool. So this is empty. This is something different that we added. Ryan Diedrich, our receivers coach, is really does a good job. We started to go. So this side's bunch, the right side, and then this is considered stack, but we just kind of developed an umbrella call where we'd go bunch empty right, and then the other side was automatically stacked. Probably most of the time, there's a couple concepts they would be spread out on. So here we're FIB, we're empty, and we're bunch, which I love. I love three things that are problematic for a defense because a lot of times defenses won't deploy correctly to FIB, especially to bunch. So we're running the same concept down here. The flat to hook to OTT. And then up top, the guy behind the receiver, he just kind of serves the backs route. And he just basically runs a bubble. We still have a 7 up top.
So it's not a full field progression read for your quarterback. He's looking boundary, right?
Yeah. He's looking boundary. He's looking at the dominant side of the call. And then the things that would take him out of it, like if I back up to that first one, if we got low press here at the point, and this guy was, 6-by-1 outside. They got the safety tight, and they took this safety and they moved him to the middle of the field, whether pre-snap or post-snap. Then we'd look backside,
like a box,
trying to hit that 7. And they're just trying to flood this concept is the best way to stop it. To put 4 guys in the area. Otherwise, we're going to work that side. So it's kind of the same idea, even with the bunch. But I mean, they're not. This is just weird. It's a different look. We hadn't shown a lot of this up to this point, just a little bit. We had motioned from it and to it, and here we're just sitting here and,
now
just base plays.
your call system is this all looped into one call, or is it boundary call, Florida Gators?
Yeah. Yeah. A lot. We do have both in the system. If we wanted something different on the backside rather than that bang post and a bubble, we'd tag purple or something, which is our width hitch with a fade. So we could dual call it, but just by natural call, this is just what we run. But we definitely, I think there might be one on here where we go slam purple. But we always go the wise side first when we're going to dual call something. A lot of our quick game is dual called. So here's one with the motion. 2nd 15, trying to get half of it. So here we're stack dice right, or stack dice left, H go. and then just running slam. So our back stays in on this one. You just got to have good timing here. The flat's taken away, and you got the X just curling in.
Yeah.
So again, pretty simple, but just a different way to get to it. There's a couple of our sprint out plays. We ran both of these first two against Ferris, and they're so dang quick. And John, was a little uncomfortable. Our quarterback, who's a pretty good player, and just you got to be on time against those good teams. It's like when you move up to the next level, why a lot of quarterbacks don't make it, just because their timing's got to be so good. And teams like Ferris, they could really jump things. But we ran this against them and hit it in the flat. This is just a flood read, basically.
So take me through the route concepts here.
Yep. So the outside guy should take a slight width step, and he's going to run an 8 to 10 yard corner. He gets caught inside on this one. And then the number 2 receiver is the huge key. He's going to run, especially if they're pressing the point. Number 2 is going to run through the outside shoulder of the defender. Really needs to rip through that to make sure, and he does a pretty good job. He gets just past his shoulder, so it doesn't look like he's picking him, because he's not. And he's got an 8 to 10 yard out, and the number 3 receiver has got a flat, aiming to 6 yards to the sideline. And we read this low to high. We want to get this out fast right now. This is we can run this from the 5 yard line, which I think there's some clips on here from that, or open field play. Just get it out now if he's open.
So number 2's got a mandatory outside release, but I think I did see him curl back inside. I don't know if it was this game.
Yeah, there's a couple different versions of this play, and we kind of built from it. There's 2 that we came up with, where we just wanted to try to grow. Instead, it's just that we just really had one sprint out, and I'm like, we got to add some other things. So I just kind of made up a couple things to try to manipulate the space. And here's another one, not an empty this time. We're motioning over. Same thing. So you can see 2 really being deliberate about getting through his shoulder, but he's got to do a good job of trying to rip through so he doesn't get called for a pick. We want him interfering, but we don't want him truly picking. So it's just simple. I mean, it's 7 yards, gets us to 2nd 3, and it's just a good quick sprint throw. Now here's we call this stack track. So track for us is 4x0. So we're going to bring the tight end over, and then we've got 3 receivers on that side. So really 4x0. Got to put one of them on the line, and then we're stacking, which means when we're 3x1, when we stack, the inside 2 guys are technically bunched. And here we short motion to it, and our number 2 receiver is a little bit late off the ball because he's trying to see what they're reacting, but we end up getting the same thing. And here he has a good free release because they're not necessarily ready for true bunch. They're late lining up. They can't adjust on the motion. We're reading low to high, and that guy jumps it pretty quick, so John lets it develop. And then the motion guy ends up almost serving like the pick guy does, usually. So here we hit the out.
Yes, I saw this clip. So, Coach, if you get, just rewind that for me for 1 second.
Yeah.
So if you get so let's say you're getting that corner now, drives on the flat. Now he's going from corner to out, or from out to corner?
He's going from, he looks at the flat, and then he goes to the out, and then the corner route is last.
I got you. Okay.
Yeah. And this is something John's gotten better at. I mean, this is pretty open here, but he's 5'11". In his freshman year, we had this open in a couple games, and he just wasn't seeing it, wasn't feeling it. He could get the quick throw and the flat out, but the out route, we were never able to hit. It's just something that we've repped, and he's pretty good at it now. The other reason I like this formation is just you got a heavy front side edge. This is actually an O lineman that we play at tight end. I think we've recruited some guys, in time that'll be guys where we don't have to play O lineman there, but we still use those guys. You got a pretty good edge to help your quarterback see.
And I like the reach protection. I feel like when you turn that back, it shortens the field and the edge too quick.
I know. There's times I do like the turn back, but all in all, I'd rather have him just gap it.
And you throw it to his throwing shoulder, which is smart. I'm sure you have to mix it up, I'm sure, but it's an easy.
Yeah. There's some different clips that I could show where he does, but I like trying to go to that side. So this is one of the ones we kind of made up. Call this stallion. So same thing, as far as the bunch, sprint out, the protection's the same. And we have the outside receiver on this one runs what we call a comeback hitch, where he's kind of working back down and he sees the space, so he just chokes it.
Yes, that's what I saw. Okay.
Yep. And then number 2, instead of running through his outside shoulder upfield to an out, he's going to run the flat. And that's the first read here. The low to high doesn't change, and John really should get it out right now. I remember him getting on the phones right after this, being like, God, I should have thrown the flat right away. And then number 3, he kind of lets it clear. He's going to split those guys and actually wheel it. And you can see how much attention he creates there, pushing that safety plane over the top, and then also bringing somebody with him. So he's really got both those guys underneath open. So it's just a different way to move guys through space. And here's the same game. This is our first round game against Pueblo. So same thing. And here we hit the sit down. Now they've got the flat covered. So you move up to the second guy, which is, right in here. We call that route a white route. So it's a little bit changed on sprint out, but it's just a comeback hitch is what we call it. He's probably sitting there a little bit too much. He should probably be working a little bit more back through the triangle there between those 2 defenders, but pretty solid catch and run. You get everybody overplaying and the backside's open.
What's the route tech on that? The white route?
Well, in open field sets, we're 10 yards and basically falling down and away from the quarterback. On this one, it's 8 to 10. We give him a little more variance on feeling it and just, because it's sprint out and he's got to just try to find the space that the quarterback can throw through. It helps when you have veteran guys like Josh there. He's a 6th-year guy.
Kid too. I like him. He's a good player.
And then this is Mustang. So this is, really similar. We got number 2 going to the flat. You got number 1 doing the same thing. And number 3, instead of running the wheel where he splits those 2, he just has a corner out here. So this is a pretty clean. This one's a little cleaner than Stallion.
Right, but the route by one's tighter, shorter.
Yeah. He probably, again, it's a different kid, so that's probably part of it. But if he feels like he's pushed him enough, he can just break down and come back. It's really a similar route, but it's not quite as definitive as when we drop back and throw that white route.
And the quarterback's looking, flat's taken. That's a second read.
Yeah, he's right there. Yep.
Okay.
Got to check the flat first, though. We don't ever want to pass that up.
Simple.
So this is Cobra. This is something I came up with about 6 years ago. So we're motioning to it here. We're in stack Troy. So our 3-by-1 call. They got the point press. I mean, this is Angelo. Really, really good defense. They're similar to Ferris in some ways. Probably not quite as dynamic like with Caleb Murphy, but they had some really, really good players. Difference was we got turnovers this game. And, this is our first drive. No, our second time in the red zone, our third drive we got down here. So number 1 receiver, he's going to run a 4-step. We call it a snake route. He's going to push for width right there, get some movement out of the cornerback, and then come right back flat inside. And then number 2 is going to let 3 clear. He's got an under. He's your hot throw if you need it, which he probably could throw it here. But John's really on time to number 3's got the corner out. He's got to get going so he can clear for 2 coming underneath. And then our read on this is the cornerback.
Yeah,
if he sticks on the snake, goes up top.
So he reads it like it's a smash concept.
Exactly. It's just a different way to get to it, especially with the motion.
So he's making his break, Pete, at 8 yards. I mean, I know you're in the red zone here.
Yeah, he's gonna. Yeah, so this would usually probably be a 10 to 12, but because we're down here, he's got to just shorten it. And John does a really good job. This is something and this is why quarterback development is so legitimate, because he at times has had trouble reading this, but he's so on time here, and he really has to be. I mean, you see the pressure on his toes, and he puts that ball right underneath the pylon. If it's any later, he's going to be out of bounds. And if it's sooner, he's going to be guessing. So that's pretty good. And that's one we've hit a couple times. Not a lot, but it's a good red zone concept. So this is Grand Valley, first game. We do a lot of, and I got a couple of them on here, not pure RPO stuff, but we throw a lot of bubbles, or we call them keys, when they kind of just step and then sit back. And our bubble key stuff, we kind of get a combo out of number 3. We do a lot of inside zone. And when people start playing down here, this is when we like going to a deep post concept because I just don't. I feel like that corner's not in good position to leverage a post route. So
Yeah.
we got a deep post with, as you know, by call, the near upright is his aiming point. Here he's going to keep it up because there's nothing back there. There's no reason for him to go to the post. Number two just has a hesitated. He kind of comes off, skip release, holds it, and he's going to end up going to the flat. And then number three is probably a little bit low and needs to climb more, but he needs to try to cross the safety's
Correct.
face,
Correct.
and just hold him a little bit, which he does just enough right there.
So he's just looking as a decoy to cross the face of the toes.
Exactly. Yeah. So like if that middle safety left and he went, over the top for some reason, the back corner of the end zone should be the inside post aiming point because in that way he could still be an option. Here he's, like I said, he's probably a little bit too low, but he's also got a guy, running with him. He probably should try to get up through that. But you can see the Z here, our outside guy, he just keeps his post skinny and high because there's just no reason not to.
And this because I saw you do the bubble off it, so this marries up off the quick horizontal pass when that corner.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah, and a lot of our stuff, you hope it resembles. I mean, it's similar in some ways to our spacing stuff. It's just that instead of a hook, you got a post outside. You just try to dress things up the same and get people to fall into it. I don't know what Grand Valley was expecting on this one, but they played too low, in my opinion, with that corner. But I can understand why, because we throw enough bubbles and, it helps to combat those when you're low. So this is an FIB. This is against Western. Definitely one of the better defenses that we see in our league. 3rd down and 9 play. So we're going to scissors with the 2 and 3 receiver. He's going to first peek the number 3 receiver who ends up outside the numbers vertical. Number one, he's going to look at him to see if he pops open, but also just to draw eyes away. And then we're going to whip with our outside receiver here. He doesn't need to oversell it. Gets out. John's pretty good at his different arm slots. You can see him drop the ball outside here just to get it out. And then you just get it to a good player and let him go to work. I mean, he catches it under the sticks, but then gets it.
So what's the read for him, for the quarterback here?
So he's going to look at the number 3 receiver first, who ends up outside of the numbers on the vertical, and then come right down to the whip route.
Why is he going to 3 first?
Just because that's the space that he should create for the whip. If he pushes that corner, if the corner sat on that, then he'd be open. But if he pushes him out of there and comes right down beneath that, then he gets to the whip right away. And then the other reason is if you make the whip route last, I feel like he might be too close to the sideline. So we kind of got into that, which one should we look at? And I just felt like because the whip route ends up right beneath that number 3 receiver who ends up on the numbers, it's just an easier read to go, right from this area here and then come right down from that. So that's just kind of what this is something we hit against. We hit against Grand Valley early in the season, and only a couple other times did we run it, but it ended up being decent for us. That's at their soccer stadium there. We had to play at their soccer stadium.
That angle looked a little rough.
It was, I was literally 9 feet off the ground calling that game. It was unbelievable.
Can't stand that.
No, it was bad. I tried to practice being in the stands during the week. It didn't matter.
Come back to our level, coach, like high school. You're sitting next to the parent who's filming the game for you.
Yeah. Getting good advice.
I'm sure.
All right. So we call this Navajo. And so this is a fade slant from outside in or inside out. And so we just got 3-step slants by both guys and then a fade. And they're trying to kind of box coverage this with 4 guys. So this is perfect to run against them. No one's pressing the point. Easy release. He's pushing out, and they're trying to, this would be a way to stop some of our stuff. But I feel like, hopefully we have enough things going outside, enough sitting in space, enough coming in, and then some shots out of it that hopefully would keep people off balance. But this is easy. His read first here, he's just going inside out. The first slant, and then he's going to look at the second slant and then the fade. The only way he'd go to the fade first is if they were playing really low for some reason with the corner, and that guy pressing, if there was a guy pressing, the guy carrying the fade had no help. But here he's obviously running out over the top. So he's just going to go from our number 3 receiver to our number 1 receiver and rip it.
So when you start talking to your quarterback about the bunch concept, it seems like his eyes are always looking at the lowest defender first. It's that corner, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And then, and then the box coverage, which I think a lot of teams will play to defend a lot of bunch that box coverage. You're seeing a lot of that.
Yep.
So
The,
is it that fair to say in terms of progression wise, you want to talk to him about leverage of the corner, then looking at obviously the high safety and the rotations of the bunch?
yep. And hopefully we've drawn a beat on what people are going to do against us. So I can say, hey, John, this is why we're going to run this because they've shown to do this against us. And then hopefully they can't be right. I mean, just if they try to take away one thing, we can go to something else. And then if people are running, if they're keeping guys outside of the box, I think we could zone read the run game here and probably have a chance to be okay too. You just hopefully if you're pulling people out of the box to worry about coverage, that's when you're able to run the football as well.
But you got to have a diverse enough package and bunch to do this. Guys will
Yeah.
run 23 concepts, and that's all they're running. It's too predictable.
Exactly. Yeah, and I think early, 10 years ago when I was, got even more than that now, when I was calling plays, and we only had a couple things, and that's why I wanted to add to it, just because I like the diversity of where we are with bunch, and hopefully the problems that we're giving some people, just leverage wise, and teams like Ferris and Angelo, even Mankato here. I mean, they just take them out of just being able to play man. Make them have to leverage things and move people around to match up and those kinds of things. Same concept here. This is against Mankato, and this is kind of a unique look for them. They got 3 low with the safety over the top. Again, reading, pre-snap, this is pretty easy. This guy, unless he blitzes or something, he's going to take that inside slant. And they're so high and wide with the corner. The guy over the number 2 receiver's got to carry a little bit, which he does just enough to get space to rip it. I don't like how we fade on the catch, but still pretty good gain.
Yeah. It's not an easy pull there.
No, I mean, and that's the thing with John. He has really good timing. He's punch stepping this route. That's what we call this. It's basically a 2-step. So we have if he's right-handed, which he is, we'll have our quarterback's left foot back. So he's going to lift his left foot up slightly right there and then just get his right foot in the ground. It's kind of a read step, basically, allowing him to read through the concept. But his timing's really good. He's really sharp mentally. He's able to wrap his mind around what we want him to do. So this is a levels concept. We actually ran this against Valdosta last year, another really good, really talented team. And kind of ironically, I mean, Angelo a lot of times was just pressed across the board, and they got the guys to do it. I mean, they got a bunch of DBs, and here they're not pressed on the number 2 receiver. Motions in, and now it really causes them problems because they really can't, at this point, be right. If they jump the low player here, and we're just motioning them in to run basically an under, the number 3 receiver is going to run a dig. So that guy that's kind of caught in between, if he jumps underneath, we should have the dig. He carries the dig, so now we got the quick throw underneath.
So you got an under, you got a dig, and what's number 2 doing on this?
He should
jersey number 2.
Number 2 is the motion guy. He's got the under. And then number 1, the outside guy, he should end up getting up and sticking it and working inside on a dig as well, which he doesn't do. I don't know if he knew the ball was out or what, because it's odd for him to not finish his route. But anyway, it gets a team that honestly, if we lined up in a track meet, we'd have trouble. Just gives us some advantages. And these guys up front were just ridiculous. They got a couple of them are in the portal. I mean, this is a heck of a front. So here's a similar concept. We called it level switch. Now we're in that stack Troy left. We're going to go X short level switch. So the H, which is our 3rd receiver, he's just got the under. The motion guy, the number 1 receiver, and the number 2 receiver basically swap here. So the motion guy, he's going to have a dig. He's getting hung up. But then the number 2 receiver, they kind of switch positions. He works out, should push vertical to that corner's hip right here. And then he needs to come across the field. He's kind of curling it. He's so open it didn't matter. But if he's on the move, he's got a chance to catch and rip through it and get upfield. But
yeah, that's a good route. I know. Yeah, I saw the Patriots run that route. I love that route.
Yeah, this is a pretty good one. And then this is against Shepherd in the semis. So I saw someone kind of run that concept against him, and the back went into the flat and was wide open. So I thought, okay, well, we just scored on it we're not scored on it. Level switch, we ran and completed it. I thought, well, let's put the back out. It'll end up wide open. So we put the back into the flat, but here, this guy takes the flat. So now we've got the motion guy open on his dig, and he gets the ball. So it's kind of funny when you put something in for the back, and we end up just working through the concept. And that's why I think, and maybe it's just a veteran thing with our guy, but why you got to continue to teach whole concepts to your quarterback, because we put this in and I'm like, yeah, I think the back's going to be wide open. Showed him the evidence from a couple games before against Shepherd, and then but you still got to talk to him. But if it's not there, then go through your progression, and he gets right to it and rips it.
So when you installed this, his first look was that back because that's what you were emphasizing.
Yeah,
right?
He was going to find the guy that could cover the back,
right.
And then he moves out, and so right inside of that was his next option.
Okay.
So anyway, it's pretty simple, but I mean, I thought to myself, thank God I talked to him about that. 'Cause sometimes you screw your quarterback over by telling him one thing, and
then he's going to look right there.
Yeah, he's tunnel vision. Yeah, so that was a good change up. So this is in the quarterfinals last year. I just put this on here because I love doing this kind of stuff. So it's 3rd and 11. These guys can flat out bring pressure. We place our back when we want to go empty, or the T receiver if we have 5 wide in. So we're in 8 bunch track left. So that means we're putting the back with width to the right, and then we're in bunch track, which, like I talked about earlier, is our 4x0. So we got an extra lineman over here. We got our 3 receivers bunched, but then we're going to motion and bring the back into the backfield. So we go 8 bunch track left, T go 3, which means we're going to bring him to the 3 spot. And then we just run inside zone RPO. But you can see they're not expecting us to do anything like this. We're in our 11Y personnel, first of all. And they're just kind of a little bit confused, which is the whole point. There's space. John's able to get the throw off, and we get 15 yards on 3rd and 11 on a bubble.
But that was pretty part of your offensive system. It's just you're saying out of the unbalanced, out of the look that you presented him.
Yeah.
Formation at the boundary.
I mean, this right here is like a really base play for us.
Right.
But the way we got to it, the fact that it's 3rd and 11, it would be such an outlier for somebody to be completely ready for something like this. And it was just fun, honestly. I was like, holy cow, I can't, because they're damn good defense, and I got a ton of respect for their team. It was kind of like, God, I'm just trying to not get our quarterback hit. We end up getting the first down. So this is against Western again. We had to come back in this game. Did not play well early. Here we're in bunch empty left. And this is different. This is just an RPO read. So we're just trying to create a math problem, which we did, because, you've got 3 over the 3 here. Safety's high. We probably could throw the bubble here. To the boundary, we've got 1 over 2. So automatically we know we're going over here. He's just running a key. John's going to rip it out, take advantage of the space. Easy 8-yard gain on 1st and 10. We're about to go ahead in the game. And then the next series, we end up scoring on that drive. The next series, we run the same thing, hit a shot play to get down here. So exact same thing, but here instead of that backer being walked up on the edge, he's suspended a little bit more in space. Probably could still rip it over here and get some. Safety's a little tighter to the field. John does a really good job of not being impatient, letting people flow, let the O-line blocking develop, because that's his 3rd option. If he doesn't like either of the throws, he's gonna end up run and draw. We get 8 yards on that.
So you're blocking big on big protection here.
Big on big, yep. There's another example of taking advantage of that. So we just one word called this. And we go again, bunch empty right, and we call this motion behind the quarterback, like a bot motion, some people call it. And so we call that by call, but this is kind of just a part of this play. So he ends up rifle motion, rifle or laser, right or left, he's our T receiver. And again, so there's 3 over 3. So we're looking what the 4th defender is going to do. Does he run out of the box, which he does? He could, he probably could rip it to him and have a chance to get something. But the fact that he's out of the box and we're blocking for him up front, especially with the cut off the edge, it's a great cut. Just easy space for him to take with his feet. Because we're all about taking space in our offense. Take the space. And sometimes that's with his feet. But that's all we're just trying to ingrain in our quarterbacks' heads is take space.
So rather than the A back doing it as most offenses do, is you're just doing it with the slot with that fast motion.
Exactly. And we do that from the backfield. With rifle laser and but I like the fact that you're going empty, you're bunch, you're motioning across, you're creating a 4x1. It's tough for a lot of defenses to be right on that. Probably the best thing they could do inside on that is twist, and hopefully they've covered you outside. And then the other thing I didn't talk about is the backside here, the side that becomes the single side. We have him on a fade, which that's really his second option. He doesn't like it over here. He could have pre-snap checked. If we got pressed and there's nothing else, he's going to throw the fade, especially to Max, who caught 18 touchdowns for us. But that guy's playing high over the top, so he's not even thinking about that. He saw that pre-snap. So that's one other option there with that. And then I think in your email you mentioned like the wheel stuff that we hit a wheel. We hit a kind of a back shoulder wheel. Probably kind of got fortunate on that one. So we throw enough bubbles and keys where we're hopefully able to get people to freeze on this kind of a look. So we're in that bunch track formation, bunch track right, Mongo left. Mongo's play action for us. The outside receiver is going to run a skinny post. He doesn't want to stay too far across because I don't want the corner and safety to be able to exchange and help on number two. Number two is going to sell stock there. He trips and almost falls. That's why the ball's not out a little bit earlier. But he just stays. He's the wheel. He's the guy down the sideline. And then we've got that.
He's on a count here, huh? Like 1,000, 2 1,000. You got him on a.
Yeah, he's not on necessarily a strict count. He's just trying to still sell run enough where he feels like that guy's committing.
Yeah, that's good timing though. That's undercoached. Sometimes you don't do that long enough. You're not getting him to buy it.
Oh, I know. And this is one of the things this is a play that we only ran a couple times this year, but we practiced it. There's the games we had it in, we'd get ahead, we didn't have to run it. So we accrued reps with a lot of these things, and you don't always end up running them that week. But this is pretty picture perfect here. And then the other coaching point is the third guy. And this is what, against Ferris when we ran it, he didn't throw it. He probably should have checked it down because sometimes you look at the skinny post, it's covered, the wheel's covered. And by that time, that guy that you're kind of faking the throw off the play action to, he might be wide open sitting there. Yeah. Now, we're going to throw the wheel here. But if that guy would have carried with Josh up the sideline, maybe we rip this and get a couple. But pretty fortunate to have that big of a void there and able to hit a shot at a pretty key part of that game.